and welcome to the 95th edition of Marex Maritime News.
A parliamentary panel has asked the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways to work out fiscal incentives to create an Indian mega shipping company, which will support the increased movement of IMPEX cargo on Indian flagships. With the clarion call of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the committee has strongly opined that an Indian shipping line of global repute is the need of the hour. The department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee's report is aimed at augmenting infrastructure facilities to boost exports.
The headlines on Monday, 6th of December 2021. ICS admissions dip in coastal regions of India. Shipping Minister reviews preparedness with port stakeholders. Crew change could be impacted by new virus variant. How to cultivate workplace diversity in Maritime. Dry bulk outlook. Watch out for supply side shocks. Lack of awareness has led to much fewer candidates appearing for the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers (ICS) Professional Qualifying Examinations (PQE), said a senior ICS member and representative on behalf of the ICS East India branch, Chennai. When ICS started its exam center in Mangaluru in 2001, there were more than 24 candidates. This year, only 5 candidates appeared for the exam, the senior member added. How can we increase the awareness of shipping in the coastal region?
I am aware that the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, London, used to conduct a number of courses in India, and subsequent to that there used to be exams, and there used to be very significant interest in the shipping community to go through these courses and obtain this knowledge. Of late, do I understand that there is a significant drop in candidates going for these courses and appearing in exams, so that is a matter of concern. I try to look into the reasons behind it. One of them may be because these courses are now available in India, offered through various Indian institutes and universities. And also there are many more options available to seafaring community as well as those who are working in offices ashore by way of doing MBA in shipping, logistics, legal studies in shipping, etc. So that could be one of the reasons. Nonetheless, it needs to be looked into, and I would suggest that the institute, through its agency in India, should reach out to associations like INSAIC, SAFOS, MASA, and make more awareness about it and become maybe a little more comparative in this business. So I wish them all the best in future, and I'm sure the interest will gather again and there will be a lot more students lining up to join these courses.
Union Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Shri Sarvananda Sonawal, has reviewed the preparedness to deal with the situation likely to arise due to Cyclone Javad with port chairmen and stakeholders of coastal areas of various states via video conferencing in the national capital on 2nd December. The ministry is closely monitoring the developing situations and has urged all to stay alert. It has taken all measures to secure shipping vessels and has deployed emergency vessels. The coastal states have issued warning to industrial establishments such as chemical and petrochemical units near the coast. According to the Global Maritime Forum's Neptune Declaration Crew Change Indicator, there is an improvement of the crew change crisis situation and a steadily increasing vaccination rate. Nevertheless, now challenges may arise with the spread of the new Omicron variant.
Just when things seem to be getting back to normal, a new variant of the COVID virus has been identified, and the WHO has declared this to be a variant of concern. Though the jury is still out as to whether this new variant will be more deadly than the previous one which we witnessed about 6 months ago, but the countries predictably, are not taking any chances. And I suspect every country will want to protect its own population. Some of the countries have already put out cautionaries about crew relief from seafarers coming from those countries. This is certainly a dampener on the current situation, because things were seeming to open up gradually and the crew change crisis was certainly coming under some control, and the delayed reliefs had got somewhat mitigated. But the new virus and the approach taken by countries, I suspect, will cause grief and hardship to the seafarers, and it's very unfortunate that despite almost 2 years now being over with this situation, none of the countries, or a large number of countries, still do not have a roadmap or a plan of how to effect crew reliefs safely and allow seafarers to go back home upon completion of their tour of duty, and not make it look as a favor done to them. It is very, very unfortunate. But we hope good sense prevails and this situation comes under control sooner than later.
Just when we thought the world was going back to a new normal, the new Omicron variant was highlighted by South Africa and then found to be across the world. And soon thereafter, as expected, quite a few countries put travel restrictions for people coming from certain countries. However, they were soon reversed by the countries because it was considered that the variant is new. We need to study the variant better to finally decide what restrictions should actually be put in place. Now, for me as a person, I feel that I hope it is not an area of concern. Our seafarers need to travel freely. Of course, with the restrictions of RT-PCR testing, double vaccinations, India has done extremely well with the double vaccinations of their seafarers, and being essential workers, they always have our support. But there is nothing to worry about as of now. Let us wait, watch what is happening, and as history has shown itself in the last 2 years, the shipping industry stands united, and I'm thankful to organizations like FOSMA, MASA, INSA, ICSA, MUI, NUSI, and of course our administration that took lots of effort to make sure that our seafarers are repatriated. And at the helm we've got DG Shipping, who's always supporting us, so our seafarers can be rest assured that we are there 24/7 standing by them.
For diversity in maritime to be successfully functional, one has to understand that companies cannot expect to be diverse unless their culture is also inclusive. There is a need to evaluate biases for not hiring women and marginalized groups and see how they have systematically perpetuated the retention of a homogeneous workforce, acknowledging that corporate culture and vessel culture can also be very different. Unless companies keep their fingers on the pulse of culture, any recruitment efforts to diversify are guaranteed to be short-lived.
Despite the progress, we know we still have a long way to go. Research shows us that the hiring process can be flawed, It's often biased and unfair. Unconscious bias plays a big role in who gets hired. But there are steps we can take to recognize and reduce these biases. Where should we start, and how can we help others to do the same? Firstly, we must understand why unconscious bias occurs. They have a critical and problematic effect on our judgment, and they cause us to make decisions in favor of one person or a group to the detriment of others. Seeing is believing. If we don't see female seafarers, female CEOs, we don't naturally associate women with these jobs, and we might have different standards while hiring, promoting, and evaluating job performance. Managers have to learn to de-bias their practices and their procedures. We have to seek to understand, to simplify and standardize our processes. We have to rework our job descriptions. Even subtle word choices can have a strong impact on the application pool. We know that women often hold back from applying for jobs that are worded in ways such as competitive, determined, or masculine in their nature, perceiving that they would not belong in the work environment. On the other hand, words like collaborative, cooperative often tend to draw women in than men. We can also go blind for the next resume review by ensuring that we are focusing on the candidate's capabilities rather than gender. The fact is, Manisha might get not the same number of callbacks as Mahesh. We need to see what the person brings to the table as a professional. Again, software programs that blind the process are very useful. It will help us improve our chances of including the most relevant candidates. Work sample tests also are very useful that mimic the tasks that the candidates will be doing in the job. And most importantly, standardize interviews. It's not okay to ask women candidates certain questions regarding to managing their family or their future marital prospects, whereas men aren't asked the same questions and are expected that they would be more committed to the job role. What organizations should be doing is setting diversity goals which are worthwhile, and they make the issue front and center. So certain things that we need to remember is experimenting with the wordings of job listing by removing adjectives that are closely associated with a particular gender. We must ask candidates to take a work sample test. It's useful in comparing applicants and an effective predictor of future job performance. Control your personal feelings about a particular candidate by giving likability a numerical score. And above all, once the candidates are recruited, we need to make sure there's a conducive environment where they feel welcome and where they thrive. It's not okay to simply hire female candidates and then put them in an environment which hinders their growth, where they will not be allowed to use their full potential. As difficult as this may sound, these are very easy steps to do, and they can be established. As the maritime industry is doing well, and we want to do even better, these are a few things that we can do to make sure we ensure a level playing field for everybody. Together, let's make a change.
December is the time for looking backward on what happened in the past 12 months and looking ahead at what might happen in the next year or 2 or 3. We can sum up what happened this past year when it comes to the dry bulk side of the market, but peering out into the future is far more interesting.
Things were looking pretty good until South Africa reported presence of the Omicron variant to WHO on November 24. It originated in the Republic of South Africa and came to light 4 days after England beat South Africa at Twickenham in London. That game in future be remembered more for being an 81,623 person super spreader event than the victory. Markets behaved in their usual way with a knee-jerk global sell-off, although the US was away on holiday marking the appropriately named Black Friday just after the previous day's Thanksgiving. News trickled in the symptoms in South Africa were mild. These findings invariably related to younger people. The WHO, the pandemic's doomster-in-chief, designated Omicron a variant of concern that might evade the current vaccines. Financial markets selectively preferred the more optimistic version, and markets bounced back on Monday opening. That did not last long. On Monday evening, the boss of Moderna, Stephen Bancel, came out predicting that existing vaccines will struggle with Omicron. The computers kicked in again, and the market sell-off resumed. The general public finds itself buffeted this way and that by the assorted conflicting interests of politicians, government, medical experts, pharma companies, healthcare providers, regulators, and humanitarian organizations. They all have their own agenda, not always altruistic. Some people think Omicron will take the sting out of inflation as it will slow economic growth. This would increase demand for containerized goods, which could arrest any elevation trend in port congestion and logistical logjams. The freight box exchange has corrected from a peak of 11,137 points on strength in container freight and time charter rates. The BDI has fallen 44% from a peak of 5,650 on 7th October to 3,171 points on 9th September and is now 15% lower at 9,474 points. Along with trade, employment and incomes, global economy continues to recover, according to the latest outlook of OECD. Being in an upward trend for quite a few quarters in a row, economic recovery has lost momentum and is becoming increasingly imbalanced. In fact, there are parts of the global economy that are rebounding quickly, but others are lagging, particularly within lower income countries where vaccination rates are still low. Demand has yet to fully recover. Strong momentum seems to be easing in many countries amidst persisting supply bottlenecks, increasing input costs, and the continued effects of the pandemic. On the hot topic of this year, stronger and longer-lasting inflation pressures have emerged in the vast majority of economies at an unusually early stage of the cycle, and labor shortages are appearing, even though employment and hours worked are still yet to bounce back to pre-pandemic levels. As far as global growth goes, OECD's best case scenario is that the global economic upturn persists, with the world coping better with the pandemic, whilst monetary and fiscal policies remaining generally supportive throughout 2022. After a rebound of 5.6% in 2021, global growth will move along at a brisk pace of 4.5% in 2022, moderating at 3.2% in 2023. The US GDP growth is projected to slow to 3.75% in 2022 and just under 2.5% in 2023 after a strong rebound of 5.6% in 2021. China GDP growth of over 8% in 2021 is expected to moderate to just above 5% in 2022 and 2023, returning to the soft landing pre-pandemic course. The recovery was sustained into 2021 by strong exports as the economies of trading counterparts reopened, but has slowed as investment in real estate and infrastructure softened and power outages became widespread. Output in India is projected to rise by circa 9.5% in fiscal 21-22 before slowing to just over 8% in financial year 22-23 and 5.5% in financial year 23-24. India's vaccination program has accelerated, underpinning consumer confidence, but COVID-19 scars are expected to leave their mark, including lower human capital accumulation than otherwise, and less investment in infrastructure, dampening the medium-term growth outlook. Although near-term uncertainty has risen with the renewed rise in COVID-19 infection across Europe, the strong output recovery in the euro area is expected to continue. Euro area GDP growth, which is estimated to reach 5.2% in 2021, is projected to moderate at 4.25% in 22 and 2.5% in 23. Brazil's revival has been supported this year by a rebound in export volume, offsetting the impact of the severe wave of COVID-19 infections in the first half of the year and subsequent supply bottlenecks. The average annual GDP growth of this key exporting country in 21 is projected at 5%, but this masks a slowdown through the course of the year. In terms of global trade, volume of goods and services should touch pre-pandemic level by end of 21, according to OECD. Overall, the volume of world trade is expected to be 9.3% higher in 21 than in 20. Momentum is projected to lose steam over 22 and 23, with volumes rising by 5 and 4.5% respectively, in sync with the taming of global activity. Various supply-side impediments such as extreme weather phenomena, shortages of inputs like semiconductors, and shipping are negatively affecting production in some industries and holding back merchandise trade delays growth in near term. Against this backdrop, the Baltic indices are heading towards their typically softer period of the year without signs of discomfort up to now. In particular, the Baltic Capesize time charter average ended Friday at 38,095 daily, whilst the Panamax 82 time charter index was balancing at 28,154. In tandem, the Supramax index time charter average and Handysize index time charter average trended upwards, concluding at 26,741 and 28,065 respectively. That being said, forward market seemingly in agreement with OECD expects that the Friday levels might in fact be a tick optimistic for the first few months of 22. Capesize in the positive week for both iron ore prices and Capesize rates. The Baltic Capesize Index reported double-digit gains. In particular, the Capesize Index time charter average at 38,095 or 17.6% higher week on week. On the same tone, China's factory sentiment improved in November, with manufacturing signaling expansion for the first time in the last 3 months. Vale lowered iron ore, copper, nickel output guidance for coming years. The Brazilian miner anticipates 325 million to 335 million tons for the next year compared to 346 million tons consensus among analysts. Panamax, it did not take long for the Panamax to gain momentum, with the P82 average index gaining 19.3% week to week. US soybean shipments to China in 2021 were the strongest since the 16-17 season, partly due to a delayed start to the 21 Brazil export season that helped extend US sales. However, American beans are not expected to have such opportunity in the coming months, as planting of Brazilian beans is fast this year. Supramax rates continue to recover across both basins, even though at different magnitudes. Overall, the Supramax index 10 time charter average gained 5% week on week, completing the lap at 26,741. Period activity cheered up, being backed by a strong push in the forward freight average values, assessment values rather, which exceeded $4,000 for Q1, Q2 of 22 contracts and about 2,500 for the calendar 22 contract week on week. The Isabelita at 58,000 2010 locked $22,000 daily for 11-13 months trading basis delivery Kuwait. The Handysize rebound was accomplished this week for the Handysize, with the unusual malevolent comment of even a dead cat can bounce once, some charterers tried to undermine the small flecks of joy building up in most owners' offices. Talking about numbers, we saw the 7-time charter average moving positively all week. It's small but steady steps, gaining $365 or 1.3% of its value week on week, ending up last Friday just over 28,000. On the period desk, we heard a 33,000 deadweight fixing 2-3 legs from Southeast Asia at 24,000 daily, and another 34,000 deadweight, which made some heads turn when people said it was fixed for 6 months with index-linked rate. Sale and purchase with prices at the very least stable and in the worst case still well above the abysmal numbers of 2020. There are still some interested in making purging or purchasing plays. This last force is evidenced by the influx of inquiries and sales candidates spanning the entire size and age gamut.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for watching. See you next Monday.